It's Monday night. And maybe you're bored of Monday Night Raw. Maybe you're bored of the Monday Night Football game. Maybe you did holiday shopping. You didn't get the deal you want. Well, you know what? Forget about all that because we got a guest tonight that I'm really excited about. On Sportswire Radio, all throughout the weeks, months, and years I'm doing this, we always have a wrestler that says, I'm the best and I'm the backyard nightmare. And I'm the guy that's undisputed. I'm the boogeyman. I'm this, I'm that. Well, this guy gotten a chance to watch him quite a bit. And this guy's portfolio very well could put him at the top of this sport with his martial arts background, with his abilities, with his super kick, with his knockout finishers, even going off the top rope, which is why he has proved himself to be a staple right now in the Northeast wrestling scene, and especially with his TF Crew YouTube Heavyweight Championship, which he is going to be defending at January 6th, first ever TF Crew indoor live show called the North Haven Massacre. He's here to talk about that, plus his background, and also a group called Syndicate, which he has got as his insurance policy, although he doesn't need it. He needs no further introduction, but because he is the champion, it's Monday night. We're in prime time. He has to get that introduction that all of everybody else and his peers get on Sportswire Radio. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, the reigning, defending TF Crew YouTube heavyweight champion of the world. They call him the Puerto Rican Prince Angel Santiago. The champ is here. My friend, how are you?
What an intro, can I say? What a professional intro from a professional sports radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, I am the digital and vigilant conscientious, but at the same time pretentious man. I am your TF Crew World YouTube Champion, the Puerto Rican Prince. Pleasure to be here, Tom.
I'll tell you what, that championship champion, we get a lot of champions all over the world in Sportswire, but that title is as pretty as it comes, and it's as pretty as those shoes you're wearing, because we saw, obviously, the promo where you redesigned the title to wear those Jordans, so certainly very much a lot of respect to you. But, obviously, we'll get into comments, we'll get into people as they tune in here very shortly. But, I want to ask you, obviously, we have this first live show coming up January the 6th, the TF Crew North Haven Massacre here coming up, and you're defending your championship against a guy, Obey. And it's kind of a contrast in what you do best in the ring. And I was curious, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, especially those that might be interested in seeing you live and perform for the first time on January 6th, what can we expect here coming up from you as you put up that TF Crew YouTube Heavyweight Championship up against Obey?
You are going to see the start of another great year. Ladies and gentlemen, has anybody had the year that I've had? I know you've had people on this radio show who call themselves the best because they've been, so long champion of their own company that they, are
probably own and book themselves. I know where you're going there.
Let me list my statistics for you. Let's list the statistics for people who don't know about it, because you're an educated man, of course, but some people aren't. So I've wrestled BWO, TF Crew. I've wrestled UWF. I've wrestled Team Dojo Pro Wrestling. I've wrestled AMP Pro Wrestling. And now I'm announcing right here, ladies and gentlemen, I am wrestling WTW December 16th. And that's how I'll close out my year against Kobo. And that's a live announcement here.
Whoa. Right off the bat, champ. Are you meaning to tell me that right for the jugular, you've got your own announcement here coming up on December the 16th, next Saturday, that you're going to be in action for WTW against Kobo, a man we know very well for TF Crew fans?
What can I say? Miami here, Mr. Worldwide. We've been Florida Pro Wrestling. We've been Pennsylvania Pro Wrestling. We've been Connecticut Pro Wrestling. Why don't we add Jersey before the end of the year, and then we can face Obey January 6th? Why not?
I'm in New York, so hopefully we could add you in New York so I can get a front row seat and watch you do what you do best, so I could get out there and see you.
My dates are open. Message me.
All right, so I want to ask you a follow-up here, and I will get to comments in a second, as I know people are certainly really, really intrigued about this. So let me ask you then, is December the 16th for your Vantage Point, champ, almost kind of a tune-up, a warm-up for January 6th? Is that how you kind of see this match coming up? Talk to me about your thoughts on this.
No.
Tell me why.
I see this as an introduction to what you will see new. I've changed a lot since I've been in Connecticut. I've been away from Connecticut since I killed my own company, the BWO. I beat Noah Golden and I beat VIP, the Swirl, one of the greatest backyard wrestling tag teams ever, wrapped up backyard wrestling and sent it back, and that is done. And I went right back to Miami. I wrestled Team Dojo Pro Wrestling. By the way, I'm the only person who's wrestled in a crowd that was 300 plus in attendance. You can look on my YouTube channel.
I did see that, by the way. I was very impressed. I saw some of the footage on your Instagram.
Main evented.
Well, you certainly have the look. I tell you what, you've got the look, you've got the ring ability, you've got, almost to use kind of the baseball terms, you got a 5-tool package about you. So there's no question that I could see why you've done those things. So I almost have to ask you that a follow-up question, champ. So what was that like, wrestling in front of 300 plus people, where a lot of people that are going to be on this show on the 6th of January, with the few minor exceptions, have never really seen that kind of environment or been in front of that crowd? What was that experience like for you?
The experience was thrilling. It was honestly thrilling because I was able to show my own craft in front of a group. It was at the Space Coast State Fair. It's in Melbourne, Florida.
Okay. I actually know it very well. One of my friends, small world, actually lives, I think, in Augustine, if I'm not mistaken. My very good buddy, Daniel Slavin, who all the time goes up there. So when you said that, I was like, wait a minute. I heard of this location. What a small world.
Well, what a small world. There you go. And I wrestled in front of them. And I mean, I thought I had a great reception from the crowd. I was able to eliminate somebody in their battle royal to open the show, went back, and they put me right in the main event. Unfortunately, my partner did get pinned. Things happen. People change. I don't get pinned. It do be like that sometimes. So, you know.
Well, things definitely. Hey, well, you know what? Hey, you got the gold, and that's certainly most important. So obviously, then I guess then your 2023 has been extremely successful. There's no question you've done a lot. I'll get into some of that. So I guess then, in a way, for you, this show coming up January the 6th, no pressure, defending the title, and this is kind of almost for you, you're expecting kind of a continuation here on the 6th, almost of what you've done throughout this year. Is that a fair statement for me to make?
I've done success throughout the year. So yes, I will be able to conquer Obey on January 6th. However, I will say this though, I am not going into this match lightly. Obey said it himself when he challenged me for this title, and there's a reason why I signed a contract to face the 4th ranked guy in this company, because Obey does not belong there. And I don't deny that. I don't deny that he's dangerous. I'm just saying that I could turn it up, baby. I know I can.
Okay, but I'm curious on that, though. You said something interesting, right? You're the champ, right? You could obviously have even taken the day off, chosen somebody else, but you're defending a title against a guy that's not even the #1 ranked challenger. So walk me through that mindset on why give a guy that's probably not worthy based on rankings a shot at your title, one of the most valued ones in this sport.
Obey has been slighted on that. He is a former XPW wrestler. He is a former UWF wrestler. He's wrestled for TF.
I know those companies very well. UWF, I definitely know well.
That man has been around. That man is still around. He is turning it up, and I'm not denying that either. However, I'm going to say this. I have a point to that as well. You break that top 5, you come into my brain. You break that top 5 in the ranking of TF Crew, I'm stalking your Instagram every day. I'm stalking your footage every day. You're on my flat screen TV. I'm obsessively watching you. It doesn't matter. Once you break that top 5, it doesn't matter if you're 2, 3, 4, or 5. I'm looking at you all the same. Because at that point, It's just a flip of a coin if you're going to be my opponent.
So the numbers don't matter to you then?
No, numbers don't matter to me. Somebody could be a workhorse one day and win, and get to me. You never know. You never know. It's whoever takes that opportunity. That's what the TF Crew is about. That is my point as TF Crew champion. How long was the TF Crew championship undefended? How long was the TF Crew
I'll be honest. If you really want to break the fourth wall for a second, I'm actually going to, because I watch a lot of wrestling. I cover a lot of wrestlers around there, and I actually was looking for when the title was defended before you won it from Donnie Mack. So there you go. I was actually trying to look for I was trying to look for a champ. I was like, you know what? Obviously, I've gotten to know Break the Fourth Wall Gabe quite a bit, and I love Gabe, but I was actually looking for when did Donnie Max defend the title before you took it from him back in the summer, and I actually couldn't find it. So there you go.
Know what's even funnier? Who was promoting that match the most? Who did a live interview with a grad student with, black magic cameras telling you about
I did see the 8-minute introduction of you. I did see the social media clips, and with Donnie, that's why he's not the champion and you are, sir.
I said I'd knock him out, and I did. I say I will beat Obey, and I will. If you don't think that there's a method to the madness that goes behind this brain, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a rude awakening, but then I genuinely want you to watch on January 6th as I defend this title.
And I want people to watch also, and I will get to comments in a second, but I'd also like people to follow the TF Crew here on Instagram at TF Crew and also on YouTube at TF Crew 69, where they have almost 2,000 subscribers. And you can watch the likes of the Puerto Rican Prince, Angel Santiago, and Unhinged shows, obviously the Backyard Summer Bash. You can watch him in a whole different number of places. And also you can follow him on Instagram and YouTube, _Angel Santiago 10 _, and also the PR Prince Angel, where you can watch matches of him, watch footage of him. So definitely watch this guy. He is a superstar. And I have a ton of comments here. So let me say hello to people here. Want to say hello to my buddy Ron, also in the state of Pennsylvania. How you doing, Tom? He also says, you look like Ricky Starks, but I'm going to actually take care of that. You are better than Ricky Starks because you've got gold.
What a professional. What a professional. Didn't even have to say myself.
I have been doing this a long time, and I have speaking professional wrestlers tomorrow. 12 p.m. Eastern Time, the legendary Dean Allmark, who wrestled in Impact Wrestling and has wrestled in Japan, France, and Italy, in addition to 23 years in the UK. Thank you very much. I want to say hello to a man that they call sometimes Captain Law, Jackson Law. Just call him Law. He's here, and he says, PRP. I have seen Mr. Law in a number of different places. You've probably seen him out there in places like XCW, ROEW, CBW, and others. Rhonda says he likes your vibe. Want to say hello to my buddy out there in the world, in the country of Australia, Mr. Ace Reed of the Wired Up podcast. It is about 1:18 p.m. their time. He is here. I don't know why, but he says hello. Thank you, Ace, for tuning in. I want to say hello to my buddy on Saturday's show that came on, Mr. Nicholas Crenson, sometimes referred to as the new Messiah, other times the Psycho Wolf. And he says, good evening, Tom and Mr. Santiago. And he also says now Mr. Santiago is what a champion should be working to elevate the champions. Okay, I want to follow up on that. Obviously, great comment. Nicholas Crenson was recently the RCW Underground World Champion in WCE. And do you feel like in a lot of ways, everyone's talking about TF Crew. Everybody's talking about this event, all these different names, Damian Blanco and Jimmy Controversy, Hardcore, even your opponent. But in a way, aren't you responsible for elevating the TF Crew? Do you feel that in a way you've been the guy that's put the TF Crew on your shoulders because you're the top guy? I mean, give me your thoughts on that, sir.
If you were to take two graphs and you were to say, what was the elevation of the Puerto Rican Prince and what is the elevation of the TF Crew, those charts would be very, very similar. Is it not just so happened that as I started doing more dates since I knocked Donnie Mack, by the way, let's just get something out there right now. How did Gabe let that continue? My manager had to get up on the turnbuckle and say he's out cold before it had to go out. God bless you.
I'll be honest. You know what I thought? When I watched the ending of the match, I thought it was almost like Apollo and Drago, where it was almost like, you're going to kill him. You're going to kill him.
I gasped myself from elbowing him in the head. I was
like, are they going to have to bring out the Connecticut Athletic Commission to kind of come out there and stop this match? Because you were going to kill him. You were literally going to kill that poor guy.
Oh, God bless. I really hope that he's okay. I haven't spoken to him since that day. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's He's fine, I guess. I haven't really seen him, but
Well, you're not focused on that. You have other things to worry about, sir.
Yeah, he's unfortunately dropped in the rankings. So you drop below that top 5, you go off my chart. As I said.
Okay, fair enough then. Obviously, no question, you've done a lot there. But, what has it meant to you then? I asked you about carrying the TF crew going into the show. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But, what has it meant to you that you've been the TF crew YouTube world champion now for about, 6 months or so? What has that been like for you on the path where you'd like to go in your career?
It's put me on a track of consistency. It's the most important thing to me is always defending the TF Crew World title. I do all these shows and I learn so much so that I can go back to my home, the place that I'm training, the place that I'm getting my name at, and being able to defend this title against XPW wrestlers like Obey, like UWF and Pro Wrestling Venom wrestlers like Mikey Anarchy. And I know he's coming. I know it's happening. I know that there's a list of people who want to come after me. And guess what? That's why I'm busting my ass every day in Florida, wrestling, random, just every show I can possibly do. I'm literally busing from Miami to Orlando to get to a show that's another hour away in Hudson. That's how dedicated I am. I want this more than any single person right now. I will crack a list. I promise you, whether it's the Florida top 100, whether it's a wrestling top 100, I promise
Well,
you.
I'm going to get to list. I have a follow-up on that because you're in the right place. I'm partially responsible for somebody getting on the list, but I'll come back to that. I definitely want to promote that, but I want to talk about something that has led to you having so much success in the TF crew with the YouTube title. We talk about obviously your submission moves. We've seen you with the super kick. We've seen you off the top rope. We've seen you with those punches, but you have a martial arts background. Now talk to me about your background in terms of how do you incorporate some of the styles that we see from you, because you're really unique. In a lot of ways, you're almost like a throwback to like a Ken Shamrock. You're a throwback almost to like an early Taz, Samoa Joe a little bit, somebody that goes out there, you go out there, you don't have any shoes on, no socks. You go out there and kind of have that MMA look. So talk to me about kind of your fighting background, how you've incorporated that into what you've done leading the TF crew as our YouTube champion.
Currently, my fighting background is I have 2 black belts, one in Taekwondo and one in Kempo. My father, who is the person who got me into karate since I was very young, he did karate as well. And he pushed me to study both styles simultaneously. On the other side of my family, my grandfather was a football coach. And he was a tough man who pushed me very hard. And he was my coach as well. And he made me a very tough man to the point where I am now mix the styles of the toughness of football and my technique in fighting, and I've merged those together to be able to create my pro wrestling style.
I feel like in a lot of ways in watching you over these past several weeks, obviously getting to know Gabe, getting to know the product, I think that makes you very unique because, I do have guys on that have come on recently on Sportzwire. We're actually college football players and certainly made the adjustment, but you actually have the ability where you've kind of incorporated both. Do you feel like that's been something subconscious from you? And maybe talk about how you've been able to mix those backgrounds into where we see from you right now.
I've been able to mix the backgrounds by being able to encompass what I think is going to get me to be able to win. I look at my match not in accordance to the way that I fight, but the way that my opponent fights. If my opponent is going to fight a certain way, I have to be able to adjust it. Donnie Max was going to try and get that crowd on his side no matter what. My only goal was to get him out of their sight, and nobody cared. And that was the point. I had to shift the tide. Once I shifted the tide of that match, it took over. When I hit the 10 punches, even when Donnie was hitting offense, he couldn't feed off any energy. It threw him completely off.
I think his strategy was, as we're talking here at the TF Crew YouTube World Heavyweight Champion of the World, Mr. Angel Santiago, and Angel's going to be a part of things coming up. First of all, WTW next Saturday against Kobo. Then we're going to see him on January the 16th at the North Haven Massacre, the first ever live you show for the TF Crew. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I think that his strategy in the match where you took the title from him was he was trying to end the match early maybe that was because he felt the longer the match went, that with his style versus yours, he wasn't going to be able to kind of last. I mean, you kind of feel the same way and going back and watching over that match?
I think that
Okay.
Donnie's was limited. I think he went in there and did not realize he was going to have to use all of his moves of doom against me and more. When have you seen Donnie Max apply a guillotine lock?
Before that, never. Never. To be
So
honest,
he applied a guillotine lock, obviously incorrectly. I lifted him up and I rampage Jackson him into the ground. He was doing random things off the spur of the moment to try and get me off balance. He wasn't executing though.
you know,
I went in there
I don't
and
want
hit
to
him with
spend
a
too much
gut
time
wrench
on him.
suplex.
But do you feel like it was also that he had this in his head? Because we saw the day before where you and him had that promo where both of you guys couldn't touch each other. And maybe he seemed a little bit kind of rattled out there. Maybe he seemed a little bit, things were in his head. I mean, do you think that you were in his head?
I think that he decided to make it personal. I didn't want to make it personal. I never did. I told the truth. I was making it about the fight. I always did. Every interview I had before that promo with Donnie Max, I said, I'm going to knock you out and I'm going to beat you. The referee should have called it far before I did any of that. But regardless, the point being is that I said I was going to knock him out. Getting into that promo, he all of a sudden starts yelling at me, I'm Trey. This is Trey versus Angel. Fine, he wanted to make it personal. I'm going to talk about his stupid jeggings and his lids hat that he got on clearance. Like, it makes no sense to me how he was going to sit there like that when I'm in a three-piece suit. Like,
all right,
like,
so obviously,
I don't want to make it personal, but
there's no question we've upgraded. You're the champ. He's yesterday's news. But let's talk about also some of the other people around you, where we call them the syndicate. We've got obviously Harvey Duplock, who actually comes out with you in the ring. We've got Roach, Christopher Black, a man you've defeated in prior shows, and Lucas Greich. So talk about them and kind of what they've been able to kind of less do with you as they make up the rest of the syndicate. So talk about them and kind of their roles here coming up.
So how I look at the syndicate is I've been approaching it very differently lately. I approached the syndicate at first by trying to recruit members that I knew were dangerous. That being
Christopher Black, you had mentioned you obviously had a match with him. You spoke about that. Roach, obviously Harvey's been with you, accompanying you to the ring. That's a different thing. And Lucas, you've also mentioned in prior promos as well.
Correct. And Lucas and I have wrestled a million times, and I know how crazy and dangerous he is. And I'm telling you this. The syndicate is ranked. I have my list. I know who's at the top of that. I know which syndicate member will be a champion one day. I know that eventually when Gabe introduces new titles, that they will move up. You don't think that I knew that Christopher Black and Lucas would be tag team champions? You don't think that I purposely negotiated them into that position? You don't think that I want to provide more opportunity for people like that? I know that Christopher Black does everything for the TF crew, and I will vouch for him any single day of the week. And guess what he did? He won the TF crew tag team titles with Lucas Greifsue. And then Lucas Greifsue went 2-0 that night in 2 tag matches, one with me and one with Christopher Black. If that doesn't prove my own points, then I don't know. But the syndicate has proven throughout of 2023 that we are on the top. And January 6th truly will not be different.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that. And I also wanted to ask you about Harvey Duplock, who obviously accompanies you to the ring, and talk about Harvey and what he provides, not only for you, but also the group.
Harvey provides for me a voice that I need. Harvey's the brother that I was never given. Harvey will smack me in the back of the head when we're at a nightclub at 3 a.m. and say, we're going home instead of let's go somewhere else. And he doesn't understand how much I appreciate everything he's done for me. But I listen to every single thing that comes from him. And he is one of few because I know what I'm talking about. But he knows what he's talking about. And If you don't think that a lot of, again, like I said, looking at the top 5, he sits with me in those film sessions and we identify things and we write notes. I have notepads and notepads of books. I have books that he's given me about people. He is instrumental in constructing my brain and putting me on the right track. And I mean, I've never lost when he's been there.
I want to ask you about that because that's an interesting thing that you just brought up. Because I do speak with wrestlers all over the place. I speak with wrestlers in England. I speak with wrestlers across the country, pros, indies, semi, whatever you want to call them at this point, Mickey Mouse, fill in the blanks. Right? And there's some guys I speak with that say, Tom, I just go out there. I don't watch or rewatch my matches so much, or I don't watch my opponents. But you kind of talked about going into film sessions, watching other people's matches. I find that fascinating. And tell me why you do that, and maybe versus other people don't do that. Why is that important for you, sir?
I would like to just point back to the statistics. I treat my body and I treat my mind in the most positive way possible so that I can be able to get the most opportunities that I can. And I think that I've capitalized on every single opportunity that I've gotten this year. I have wrestled 2 matches in front of 300 plus people, as we mentioned, and main evented that show. I've done 2 shows in Florida. I obviously did shows in Pennsylvania and Connecticut. We've discussed all of this. I take every opportunity I can get. I never say no because I want to be able to establish myself everywhere. So when I sit down and I know in my head, okay, I could either do something stupid or I could sit and watch film. That's what I'm going to do because that's what's going to keep me as champion. Watching film, working out, working on new styles.
Well, you've definitely done that, and I think it's again important to point that out because again, as I pointed to you, some guys come on when I ask him that those people that question, I say, well, do you watch the tape? Do you go sit there and certain people go, well, I don't want to think about it. I just want to go out there. But again, you take a rather, I think, approach that the pros actually take. If you ask a pro wrestler, a real pro wrestler, they actually sit there and watch the footage. They think
what doesn't make me a real pro wrestler?
Oh, I'm not saying that I think that. I'm saying that there are certain people that they come on here when I ask them that question, and I'll ask them, do you go out and watch, your match, or do you watch your opponent's match? And they'll say, oh, I don't really think about it. Now, I agree with you. If it was me, I would want to sit there and watch, let's say, my opponent's match if I haven't wrestled. Even if I have wrestled them, I would want to watch them a couple of different times and kind of get a sense of where I can do differently, where I can kind of seek out their weaknesses and kind of use it to my advantage, or even their strengths and kind of pull them apart. So that's kind of the way I agree with you on. So no question about that. And I have somebody here named Hard Jimbo who says hello, but I'm not going to repeat some of the comments that he has to say. But, I want to go back to January 6th for a second because of the North Haven massacre. And the syndicate holds gold. You're the champion. You're the top guy. And tell me your thoughts the way I ask this. Do you think in a way that this is almost like kind of like, let's say, a coming out party for you guys? Do you see this January 6th show as almost in a way like this is where the syndicate gets put on a big stage? I know you've been in the 300 people that you've wrestled in front of that crowd twice, but this is the first show where people are going to see the TF crew live, not on YouTube, not an Instagram clip. Do you feel like for the syndicate as a whole, this is the coming out party where to a bigger stage and a bigger audience, you guys get put on the map?
I believe that this is the TF crew in general's opportunity to put ourselves on the map. There's quite nothing like us in Connecticut. I mean, you can see right now, WWE is capitalizing on that right now by putting a show in Bridgeport immediately so that they could be able to get as many people there as possible. They know that there's a market there, and there is. I'm bringing it. We're bringing it. The syndicate's bringing it. We're going to have a full sweep that night and be popping champagne bottles at the end because that's what we're going to do. We're going to retain all the titles, stand tall at the top of a company that has never seen such a rise in popularity, in wrestlers coming to us, in location. Nothing has been seen like this in Connecticut. And I promise you that we will be the largest show that the TF crew has seen.
I have no doubt about that. And again, I want people to follow the TF crew wherever you might be in watching this. You can do that here again on Instagram at TF Crew, YouTube at TF Crew 69. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling here, speaking with the Puerto Rican Prince, who is, by the way, the TF Crew YouTube champion. His name is Angel Santiago. And if you're out there on Sportswire Radio, you can check us out anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on our brand new website at sportswireradio.org. You can also check us out here on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. You can also check us out on YouTube, where you can watch past, present, and future TF Crew shows. You can do that here in the link above. And we'll also have more coverage, as I stated, tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern time with the legendary Dean Allmark. Then I'll be back here at 9 o'clock Eastern time with Big Tex of Dominating Breakout Wrestling, not too far away from Connecticut. They're in Maryland. These guys are in Connecticut. Maybe some future possibilities there. I'm going to talk with Big Tex about all that. Then I'm going to be back Wednesday afternoon, 3:15 p.m. with the play-by-play man of XCW, the gold standard. I believe in this sport. That is Mr. Blackheart himself. Blackheart was the 2022 XCW Wrestler of the Year. He recently retired at SummerMania. He's going to talk about that, his transition to the booth as an announcer, and he's going to talk about all things related to the season that was and ended here at Final Chapter for XCW. You can follow XCW at XCW Shelbyville on YouTube, also at XCW All Access, Instagram XCW_Shelbyville, Twitter XC Wrestling 1, and Facebook XCW Shelbyville, and their website as well as XC Wrestling 1.wixsite.com/Shelbyville. They have been around for 20 years. They're going on strong. They're starting the end of the season here, going into next season encounters. Episode 1 will be coming out next Thursday, so we'll talk a lot more about that with Blackheart. But in the meantime, we are here with Mr. Angel Santiago, the Puerto Rican Prince. You know, champ, you know what impresses me most about you so far is that you look gold. You look like gold. You look like you were born in gold. You wear gold. You have to talk about the attire, because I don't know if I've thought about it on Sportswire. I had a lot of guys come on. You have certainly been one of the more eloquent looking champions. So talk about some of your wardrobe and attire, and how you come across with it.
It just shows how professional you are to ask such a professional question. We can go through that. We have the gold glasses, as you can see. We have the custom gold ring. My girlfriend has a smaller version. I got both of them made. There is a little bit of blood on that I will turn around.
I won't say anything about it. Pretend I never heard it.
I did not punch anybody with that. I will show you my watch as well. We have the silver. Where's my screen? The silver.
I was impressive. I feel like I thought I saw a gold watch on a prior show at one point.
Oh yes, I have my other one right over there. Don't worry.
I knew. See, I knew I was onto something. Look at the champion. Look at the kind of champion here that does that. I mean, phenomenal. There you go. There you go.
They got that right there. And we have this Coach watch that I was wearing. I just figured I would go simple for this interview. This is a custom shirt from Little Havana that I have, and these are my custom dress pants that are tailored to me. So yeah, that's the fit.
Very impressive. Little Havana. When I think about Little Havana, I think about certainly the likes of Jose Canseco, who was born down there, and Rafael Palmero, and then some guy, Alex Rodriguez, probably heard of him. And oh, by the way, a guy, Razor Ramon. I was actually watching an old Razor Ramon vignette, and they showed him down there, and he kind of had this whole thing about him, and they were serving him food, and they gave him the bill, and he was like, I'm Razor Ramon, and he basically threw the bill and almost broke the guy's hand. So I can certainly see you doing those things here. Now, I'm going to actually have an announcement in a few minutes regarding more TF Crew coverage, so stay tuned for that. But unfortunately for you, I guess management came in here and says, I hate the Prince, whoops, wrong academy. What's up with that, sir, about that kind of comment from our management team?
Do you see how ungrateful Gabe is? Do you see how he talks about me in interviews like I'm an alcoholic?
I had him on here. Listen to it now.
I know. I watched the interview. I watch your stuff. You're a professional.
Why do you think Gabe doesn't like you? Do you think it's a matter of jealousy? Does he wishes he could be you? So why do you think that there's kind of this divide between you and Mr. Gabe Sayers?
I don't know. All I know is that I'm going to be making him a lot of money on January 6th. And he's just, I guess that he's decided to have this relationship with me where he pretends that he hates me when I just keep lying in his pockets. I'm his champion. Like what happened before I was here. But guess what, dude? He's a bum and he chooses to be.
So let me ask you a question then. So if you're making him all this money, right, getting him into his foot in the door in this first ever live show he's putting on, wouldn't he say, you know what, this is my guy, this is my champion, I want to basically ride with him, and basically whatever he wants, I'm going to basically give him a blank check and roll out the red carpet? So why is it not the case?
I will say this right here on Sportswire Radio.
Okay.
At the end of my match against Obey, when I beat him and Gabe Sayers is watching me win and he has to hand me this title again, I want him to shake my hand and raise my hand because I am his champion and I go everywhere and represent the TF crew. I am going to wrestle 6 companies, including the TF crew, in one singular year. And I don't understand what other TF crew champion has wrestled that many companies. Oh, and by the way, I started my YouTube channel September 1st of 2023, and I've accumulated 200,000 plus views since then. So I don't understand.
Funny you said that, because I was watching some of your footage here, which I want people to actually subscribe to your YouTube page at the PR Prince Angel. And you've got footage out there with thousands and thousands of views, these shorts you've put up there. And, you know, I've asked different wrestlers this or different companies when they have this footage out there, what does that mean to you to have that many people putting their eyes on you and wanting to watch your content? What does that mean to you?
It is just another graph to show that I'm on the up and up. And it just shows since September 1st. And again, I am like, this is not, it doesn't just come randomly. Like, that's the thing. People think this is so random. I'm pushing my name. I'm pushing myself. I'm pushing my brand. I'm pushing the TF crew brand. I'm pushing so that we can have an amazing event. I'm pushing so that I can be ready for that day. I am ready for January 6th. And you're damn straight, I'm ready for WTW on December 16th when I knock Kobo out too.
I'm going to definitely ask about January 6th and certainly about Kobo and all those other things. But speaking of things here, we actually have another announcement, which I promised actually to break here live on the air. And speaking of the show itself, although it's not involving you, so you can kind of rest easy on this one, I actually have somebody coming on here Friday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. And he's a man I actually just watched in another promotion. Just like you're going to wrestle in different places 6 in a year. I just watched a guy wrestle in a company called Resurrection Wrestling, Resurrection Pro Wrestling on YouTube, Resurrection Wrestling on Instagram. And his name is Jimmy Controversy. He's coming live to Sportswire Radio to talk about his match against a guy Hardcore, who we're actually supposed to have had on here like 30 different times, but yet we're getting Jimmy Controversy first. He's going to talk about this match coming up here Friday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to follow him on Instagram, you can do that very easily at Real Jimmy Controversy, and you can find out why he's the hit Sarge, why you find out he's the murder sport fighter, why he's the most... Happy. Well, I'm looking forward to it. He is the most uncivilized worshiper of the sport of pro wrestling. He is the C4 assassin. He is everything else and a bag of chips, as my old friend Julie Brown, Downtown Julie Brown, MTV VJ, used to say. We're looking forward to having on Jimmy Controversy. I repeat, this Friday on all Sportswire Radio platforms, including YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 backspace streams, our website at sportswireradio.org, and also you can check that out here on Twitter at Thomas Price 2017. Jimmy Controversy this Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Follow him on Instagram at Real Jimmy Controversy. So we got that out of the way. Jimmy Controversy is in the house. So I actually wanted to ask you then further, you know, you've said a number of different things, right? You've talked about the fact that there's going to be 6 promotions you'll have wrestled in before the year is out here. We're about 27 days till the year is out. December 16th, we'll see you at WTW against Kobo. But, you know, I was wondering your thoughts. Because, you know, I have all these wrestlers that come on Sportswire and they say, you know, I'm the best and I'm the longest running champion. I'm the greatest. And, you know, I'm this ruler. I'm this backyard nightmare. And, you know, I'm the everywhere man like Johnny Cash. And, you know, we can fill in the blanks for everything else. But you've got a look that I think could certainly put you in the conversation with all these different people in these different places, whether they've wrestled in, I don't know. Let's throw some states out there for fun. Iowa. You might even see a couple of guys from Iowa on January 6th, right? Some places like Michigan, some places like Tennessee, where one guy says you have to respect him because he's a hardcore king. Another state, Alabama, who their champion was a security system. That was his 3 initials. Another place in Wisconsin who said he was basically doing the Roman Reigns gimmick. Then we obviously have another place out there in Maryland, which we sort of touched upon. And, all these different places. And I was wanting to give you the floor. And you say you're the best. And I wanted to actually let you, to the audience here, and even to those on Instagram, where I'll specifically share this out there to, just so you can get your chance to a larger pool of people. Why are you the best? And why should everybody, quote unquote, acknowledge you right now because of the run that you've had, which has put you on the top right now?
Well, first, I would like to go with your first announcement because I want to say, Jimmy Controversial, welcome to the TF crew. Very excited to have you. Now I'm going to move to your question. It is so convenient that all those companies say they're the best, and my Instagram is open, and I'm waiting. And it just seems that I always say yes. And as I said before, took a 4-hour bus ride to Orlando, took a 2-hour then car ride to go to Amp Pro Wrestling in Hudson, Florida, just to wrestle. I'm telling you, I'm making my name. And I'm telling you right now, I've held this title for 6 months. I literally gave up the BWO New England Championship. That's what I chose to do. And that's out of respect. If I don't feel that I could give responsibility to a belt, I won't hold it. I have dominated my competition. I won this belt via knockout. When does that happen in TF Crew?
I would dare say in this sport, it doesn't happen often. In this entire sport, I don't care if you're that other company in Connecticut. I don't care if you're that other company in Jacksonville. I don't care where you are. How many champions win their company's top prize via a knockout where the guy basically couldn't go out there and perform? He was beat up too much.
I haven't seen Donnie Mac since, and that's all I'll say.
Well, that's certainly a fair point. So then I guess, since you talked about the fact, sir, that your DMs are open, right? You talked about the fact that you're always willing to travel, right? Fair statement?
Yeah.
Then is it also fair for me to say that maybe some of those states, let's say those states in Michigan, let's say those states in Tennessee, Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin, Alabama, maybe anybody else I'm missing out there, are they ducking you because they know that you really could basically kill or destroy their champion, or just that good? Do you feel then that they're ducking you, these different promotions, or what do you say to that?
First of all, I will never travel to any of those places at any point in my life because I have a life and I choose to stay in places like I don't even like going back up to Connecticut. I stay here in Miami where I like it.
The weather's warmer. It's nicer out there. The women are more beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, I lived in Connecticut.
Alabama. Why am I just going to get I don't want to go to Bama. I don't want to go to Wisconsin. Come to me. Come to me and fight me. Guess what? At this point in my career, guess what? After that TF Crew event, I'm the guy who's still packing up the ring. You know why? Because I represent this company and I represent pro wrestling. I love this more than anybody else. And people think that just because I got all this flair and I got all this around me. No, that's an exclamation point. The word is banging. I'm killing people. The exclamation point is my Coach Watch.
Oh, you know what? I think that I have some questions for you from people in the audience. First of all, my buddy Nicholas Crenson, my guest on Saturday's show from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, says respect is earned, never given. He says he likes you because he won his last championship through referee stoppage or knockout, really knockout basically, against the resident rock star Sean Joe before that RCW Underground title in late spring, early summer. So thank you for that. Yeah, just about late spring, right before summer, Mr. Crenson had won that championship. But I have a question for management. Maybe it is Mr. Sayers, maybe it's not. But this question is directed towards you, and I want to get your thoughts on it. He says, if Prince retains against Obey, who's next?
Well, first, Mr. Crenson, congratulations on your KO win. I wonder how many people that was in front of. Secondly, let's move to who I would face. I have no idea. As I said, I'm always looking at the top 5, and I'm always looking to defend my title. I've defended against Leonidas, who's wrestled many companies. I defended it against Caster. I defended it. I beat Donnie Max for the title straight up.
Chris
Like,
Rocky defended it against also.
oh, and I did double duty at the TF Crew event. I started and knocked Caster out in 17 seconds and then wrestled Noah Golden and Vaughn and won and went 2-0. So whoever's next, it doesn't matter. Step up. I'm ready. I just want the match announced so that I can promote it on my Instagram and YouTube.
Well, spoken like a true champion. Okay, fair enough. Then I definitely am looking forward to seeing you out there. And okay, so obviously we've established that. We've established that you are the champion here. And I was wondering here, in kind of a silly question, but what does it mean to you to be the TF Crew YouTube World Champion?
It means to be a part of a brand that is expanding. It means that we are now putting ourselves on the map. And January 6th will truly be the start to an amazing year for TF Crew. There will be amazing announcements after that. That event is going to go so well. And I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, you better show up and see all the matches on that card and wait till the end, because Obey and I are going to prove what it looks like when gods box each other.
Let me ask you a follow-up on the question from management, or if it's Mr. Sayers, flip a coin at this point. Let's say you do win the championship and retain, let's say based off their comment. I think obviously you've made a statement here and what you've done in the ring that you are heavily favored, and I would certainly expect you to walk away and continue your title run. But after all you've done in a short amount of time and the TF Crew in these 6 months and you wrestling in these different places, I mean, what would there be left to accomplish? I mean, maybe in a way that there are some people in this sport that feel that you go out on top with TF Crew. I mean, would you consider that? Let's say you dominate and win yet again, or do you want to continue this run, continue this reign? Because there are some people that, would like to go out on top. I mean, listen, I asked this question at one point to a company in Tennessee right before their champion, quote unquote, had got to his 500 days. And then all of a sudden we never saw him again. I actually asked that question verbatim to that person in Tennessee representing their champion, their client, quote unquote. And right after they got to 500 days, we never saw them again. So I kind of ask you, we're on the verge here of this, monumental title run, a monumental victory over Obey. I mean, what would there be left to accomplish in TF Crew, let's say, with another victory here? What do you have left to do?
There's so much more coming to TF Crew. There's so many more people who want this title, who know that it means something, who know that I've elevated the title to the point where if you hold it, it means something. Hell, I've elevated Donnie Max's name off of pure me just elbowing him in the back of the head. That's how I've been able to elevate this title. The TF Crew can go so much further, and I know it can. Now, I'm not denying when my Obey match isn't over that I'm not going to take my title and I'm going to go on a very nice vacation and I'm going to shit. No, I'm not denying that because I love just chilling. But guess what? I'm going to be watching that footage back. I'm going to be healing my body like I normally do. I'm going to be eating well and working out, and I'm going to knock out the opponent after.
Well, I know one of the things, I think it was one of your early title defenses on the broadcast team, they basically had said that there's literally not an inch of fat on you. There's not an inch of fat on this man's body. So clearly he is doing what it takes to look and be like a champion here. And I've got another follow-up, another great question here from management. This is actually a more neutral one. Is this your first indoor show?
Yes. What's
that like? Talk to me about it. What is that?
Well, it will be interesting because it's funny because now that I'm booked on WTW, that will be my first indoor show that I will be doing on December 16th. But the TF Crew will obviously be the first indoor of the calendar year going into it on January 6th, which will be very interesting. Okay. And it's a whole new environment. It's a whole new workspace for me. It's a place that I feel the TF Crew has needed for a while. I think being able to go and have a home and establish a home is my goal at that event. And being able to establish myself in that space to the audience is very important to me as well. And I just implore every person watching this program to be able to go and watch that show. If not live, please watch it via YouTube.
I couldn't agree more. And we're speaking here again with TF Crew YouTube champion, the Puerto Rican Prince, Mr. Angel Santiago. We're hanging out with him for a little 20 or 30 more minutes here on Sportswire Radio. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, and the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. You can listen to us anytime, like I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at sportswireradio.org. And also, if you have a podcast out there, if you like to be a DJ on your own, I actually will have a live internet radio station, which we pay for free. We give people the opportunity, if they want to have their voice, they want to put their podcast out there, let me know. But, obviously speaking a lot about this in your first show indoors, I kind of wanted to ask you then, what are your goals coming up for, let's say, maybe the end of this year going into 2024? I always ask this question to wrestlers when we get to this time, because I'm doing this for almost 5 years, and every year we get toward December when I have people come on the show like yourself, I'll ask, what are your goals coming up for the calendar year in 2024? So I asked you that question.
I want to end the year out strong, beat Kobo, beat Obey, and continue wrestling in the TF Crew, continue wrestling consistently in the TF Crew, unlike the other champions that did not. And I will continue to be able to wrestle in more companies. There are much more opportunities that are ahead of me that I have not announced yet. WTW is the start of that. And my goal in 2024, I will make a list. I want to be on that list of people, whether it's the Florida top 100, whether it's the Northern top 100, whether it's the top 100 anywhere. I will prove that. I believe that I should be in that conversation this year. Do not get me wrong.
I tell you what.
I deserve that conversation this year.
I'll tell you what. I actually came prepared for this. So I got a couple thoughts on this, and I'm glad that you brought this up here, sir, because obviously I'm doing this a long time. I speak with different people, and we've come up with our own list on Sportswire, and I might ask you about that first, but I am actually responsible for a guy in Vito Fratelli who got on to the PWI 500 this year. He's number 390. He had defeated TJP, who you might have heard of in a company called WWE. He also wrestled Alexander Hammerstone, who made his debut in GCW. He was the MLW World Champion for well over a year, and he has certainly done a lot in Mexico and places. He wrestled in front of 9,000 people, and Vito is a very big supporter of mine, but that's not the point. Do you feel in a way that the list that you should be on is maybe wrestling in more places, or the list that you should be on is maybe wrestling more top tier opponents? No disrespect to Donnie Max or Leonidas, or, no disrespect to Christopher Black. I know he's with you in the syndicate, but, I look at a guy like you, right? I look at your style. I look at what you do in the ring. I look at how you conduct yourself. I look at how the following that you have. I mean, before I get to the second list, but the first list is, don't you want to be on a list of wrestling some of the top tier opponents, maybe that come on to this show? Is that the first priority, is to maybe wrestle some opponents that people might actually know on this show?
Well, I would debate to you that if you go through my topography, you will be able to see some of them. I eliminated Kobe Cossie from a battle royal.
I heard of Kobe. Okay, I'll give you that. Touche.
I wrestled Alpha K9. A guy.
I heard of Alpha K9. Okay, I'll give you that.
He's wrestled Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling. He's wrestled all up and down.
Yes, I've heard of him because I actually know the guy the co-owner of CCW. So I know a little bit of the Florida wrestling scene. Okay.
I pinned Gangster X at UWF. I wrestled Doc Holliday, Ray Lewis, who was trained by Chikara. I've wrestled all of these different guys. I've just been going outwards and doing it. But if you scroll through my topography, I would debate to you that I teamed with Chef Notario at that Space Coast, and we both eliminated him, and then we ended up tagging that night. He took the pin, but that's not his fault. That's not his fault. It happens. I try.
All right. I mean, I would still at least with you.
And I know, and I don't deny your question. What I will say to that is, Obey is the start. A guy who's been at XPW. A guy who has main evented UWF. That's where we start the year.
I agree with you that Obey, in terms of your title defenses, is the big name on the list. The guys that you've wrestled, no question, those are names. Like I said, I know them. I certainly know what they bring to the table in independent pro wrestling. So I agree with you on that. But these title defenses that you had, I think that on the list I would love to see some bigger names, and I'm sure once you successfully defeat Obey, that we'll see more of that whenever we see more footage from TF Crew shows, whether they're going to be live if you buy a ticket or certainly on the YouTube page, TF Crew 69, TF Crew on Instagram. Also, Angel Santiago, make sure you support him, _Angel Santiago 10 _ also the PR Prince Angel on YouTube as well. So I have the second part of my question about the second list that I have actually made. Now, on Sportswire Radio, we've made this thing here called a Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame in a way to celebrate my 5 years in doing this. I've had on politicians, I've had on Major League Baseball players who won the World Series, the Stanley Cup champions, wrestlers from all over the place. But that's not the point. I would actually like to ask you then, speaking of lists, you want to be on lists, right? Obviously, you want to have your name seen in different places, right? So I was thinking, when you continue your dominance, you've been very dominant in 2023. Right? You obviously have done a lot. You've wrestled now in 6 promotions. You've wrestled in several different states. You've been on pro shows. You wrestled in front of 2 different audiences with over 300 plus people, which, to tell you the truth, is very impressive because many of the British pro wrestlers I have known this year, I would probably say haven't wrestled in front of that many people. Maybe 2 wrestlers I've had on from the UK have done that. Maybe 2 of them, and the third one I would say is debatable if they've done that. As a boxer, they did that, but not as a wrestler this year. So if I were to say, maybe down the road in a few months from now, whenever your schedule allots, whenever it desires, would you see yourself as a candidate? Let's say, since you are the TF Crew YouTube champion, you're the guy responsible for the TF Crew's first ever live show, almost like Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania 1. Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, whether Mr. Sayers would agree with this or not, would you want to, let's say, because of what you've been doing in the ring and how you've helped build this TF Crew company, would you want to, at some point in 2024, sir, be inducted as a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
I would love that. And I would love to continue my title reign and keep proving that I belong on that list. Gabe Sayers has my personal phone number. He knows he rang me up. You're facing Obey. Sign the contract. We did it. And I promise you, it will be that same way for every major opponent I face. I will say this about Gabe. He is a businessman, and he knows how to get me what I want. Very similar, if you remember, to Jordan Devlin in OTT. I am the import killer, and we're about to get some really good imported goods.
Okay, so it seems to me is that you'll be successful on January 6th. We'll bring you back after the show. Maybe then we could formally ask you on maybe when would be a ceremony, a day and time would be a good time for you to be inducted then to the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So let me get this straight. You would certainly be interested in being on that list then.
100% I would, and I would be honored to be on that list by you.
Well, I'll tell you what. You keep doing what you're doing. You retain your championship on January 6th. I bring you back afterwards. Yeah, I think you're definitely on that road. You're definitely going to join yourself with the likes of the natural born fighter, R.P. Davis, the Grand Slam UK champion, Betley 2 belts, Dean Omar coming on the show tomorrow to be inducted, and of course, Justin Parsley, the first real wrestler. So I will certainly say you're on that list. But I was also wondering, since we're talking a little bit more with you, we're talking obviously about this show itself. Is there any other matches, maybe aside from yourself, that you're maybe excited about to watch, even if you don't have an impact on anything? Like for those that might be out there that might want to go out there and find out more information on the TF Crew, is there any other matches that excite you most?
100%. There's a lot of people who are going to be making their debut in the TF Crew. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to be in the back of my own locker room.
You have said that actually you do have your own locker room. You've said that in prior promos that you actually are kind of separate from everybody. So I'll give you that.
It's, when you get to be the champ, you get your own space. And the Puerto Rican Prince, I very much value my own space as I am in my apartment right now. Okay. And what I will say is I'm so excited to watch Jimmy Controversy fight Hardcore.
Well, I have to say this has been a match that I have been plugging on Sportswire for weeks now because I look at Jimmy, I look at Hardcore. I mean, in fact, Hardcore, I actually had somebody message me in England who was a former wrestler trained by Dean Allmark, and he was telling me, when are you getting this Hardcore guy? So people around the world have watched Hardcore, and then Jimmy Jimmy, I actually just spoke of with Joseph Tibbs, who booked Jimmy Controversy at Resurrection Wrestling 2 weeks ago. They were supposed to have more Resurrection Wrestling coverage coming up with D'Angelo LaFlame, who was also on that same show. And I also had a number of Resurrection guys like the Atomic Titan, who's the TBW Hardcore King, their Hardcore Champion, Joshua Allen, who owns that company. And everybody raved about Jimmy. So to me, this is a match I think wrestling fans all over the world on social media really should get a chance to see between Jimmy Controversy and Hardcore.
I think that this is the event of the year. You think you get to start the year with Wrestle Kingdom? Well, TF Crew is coming right in there too. We have that. Obey Wrestling, XPW, IWA, Deep South. He wrestled against me, a guy who's wrestled all those shows that we talked about. This is the biggest show TF Crew has run. This is the biggest show Connecticut has seen, and we're going to put ourselves on the map. You will see those numbers be going up after this event. I promise you that.
There's no question about that. And I just want to follow up on Connecticut real quick because somebody actually, and I said this in Gabe's interview, I actually, for a brief period right after high school, I lived in Connecticut for several months with my uncle. I lived in Greenwich, Connecticut. So I know the Connecticut wrestling scene. It is kind of dying for like something like this. I really think there's a big void here that has been kind of left in the Connecticut wrestling scene for a long time. And I have no doubt that the TF Crew, whether Gabe admits it or not, that you're going to help fill that void. You're going to help be able to bring out more shows coming up like this one. And I think 2024 is going to be an action-packed year with TF Crew coverage. But, I want to come back to Gabe here before I get to a few other thoughts here. And I'm going to tell you why I want to get back to Gabe because, you think about the fact that, again, I asked you, your social media, your following, your wrestling, your wins, everything you've done from a business standpoint. If I'm a businessman, which I technically am because I own Sportzwire Radio, and we've certainly done things to grow the product, to grow the platform. We have all these little mom and pop podcasts that play on my internet radio station. And I would think there was a businessman, though, it'd be Gabe's best interest to do whatever you and the syndicate want. But it seems like you guys have this rather, I guess, ice cold or even hot and cold at best relationship. And what do you think would maybe change that relationship where Gabe would maybe see things more in line with?
I wish that Gabe was able to see just the business aspect of this. I discussed that he's a businessman, but I guess he can't see he has a personal gripe with me, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what that I've done to him. He says that
let's talk about it. Do you think he's jealous of your looks? Do you think he's jealous of your ability?
Let's look at the words he uses then. He says I run roughshod on his company. Have I laid my hands on any single person in the TF Crew outside of the TF Crew? Have I jumped anyone? Have I attacked anyone? Have I decided to absolutely bludgeon somebody? The only time that I chose to straight up disrespect Donnie Max is when he decided to call me by my name. And guess what? He's not my goddamn mother, so he can't say that. So I decided to talk about the stupid stuff that he was wearing and the fact that I was once again going to knock him out. And I had Gabe had to pay for a flight to take me there, to knock him out, to come back here. And I don't know why, just because Gabe doesn't think, like, does he not believe that I deserve a locker room? Because I do. And I get results. And these numbers are going up. So we're in the money.
So it sounds to me like there is definitely a clash of personalities, a style of differences here, which has kind of led to why you and him kind of have this kind of, I guess, tenuous relationship at best. And speaking of champions, I want to say hello to is the reigning, defending, dominant, breakout wrestling champion of the world. And we have more DBW coverage coming up tomorrow night with another big man and Mr. Big Tex. He's the final boss. He is the prophet himself, the prophet of purgatory, Mr. Judgment himself, another great champion. The dream match would be you and him one day. You never know. Maryland, Connecticut, not too far away from each other. And Mr. Judgment says the prophet says good evening, mortal. So he is saying hello in his own ways to the both of us. We look forward to more DBW coverage coming up here in the near and distant future. Okay, so obviously we spoke a lot. I could ask you thousands of questions, but I just want to get to the kind of nuts and bolts here. So first of all, I want to ask you if you had any final words for Obey here live on this show, especially for those that are listening and watching and those that are considering maybe to come out there on January 6th at the North Haven Massacre and see you in action. What would be your final words to Obey?
I would reference the match I'm having with Kobo because a lot of people will question why I'm wrestling him. I enjoy dragging people into deep water so that they could learn something about themselves. And I believe that's when you reference people like Leonidas, like Castor, like Donnie Max, you say that people don't know them. They used to not know them. They learned something about themselves in those matches. Oh, I know they did. And I promise you, Obey feels the same way. He loves to teach people. This is my biggest test. And if he thinks that I'm going into this lightly, he is sorely mistaken. Obey, I will say this. My father and I have had this conversation now, and I realize it. I have native Puerto Rican blood inside me going back to my grandmother who came to this country.
Okay.
Obey is a demon and a spirit that I am meant to expel. He has haunted my people for however long. It is my turn to put that demon out, to expel him, to conquer him. And I'm telling you, Obey, if you think that your demonic Santorian ass is going to come after me or whatever you are, I'm going to beat you. I know that you've caused chaos in Puerto Rico. I know that you're a demon older than time that's just taken a new body. I've done my historical research. I will beat you on January 6th. Por mi familia.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, we heard the champ speak even in Spanish about his opponent coming up January the 6th. North Haven Massacre, the main event for the TF Crew YouTube Championship of the World. It'll be the Puerto Rican Prince, Angel Santiago, putting that title on the line against renowned pro wrestling star Obey. It is going to be a dream match if you are in the Connecticut area or anywhere near the tri-state area. Go out there and find out more information for the TF Crew to go out there and watch the January 6th show itself. You can do that on YouTube at TF Crew 69. Instagram at TF Crew. And if you want to follow Angel Santiago on his journey, you can do that on YouTube at the PR Prince Angel. Also on Instagram at _Angel Santiago 10 _. Do not miss out on this. Make sure you follow also Angel Santiago because the syndicate will come after you. He is not in the mood right now, and he's also got a big show coming up at WTW December the 16th. His warm-up, his last match of the year, technically against Kobo. We will have to see what happens there. And I'm so very, very excited about the future for the champion here, and it has obviously been an honor here to have him on. So obviously I wanted to ask you before we get to closing thoughts also, and what do you want to say to anybody that's heard from you the first time on why they should join you in following you on this journey, which we know is going to lead you onto some lists, and at the very least, maybe a list on the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame and sometime in 2024. So for those that are watching you the first time, what do you want to tell them to kind of join you and follow you on this journey, which is going to lead you to even bigger and better things?
Well, frankly, as a film major and somebody who's around a lot of broadcast students at the University of Miami, I'm going to point that question back to you. As somebody who did not know me at the beginning of this year, as somebody who did not hear my name recalled a lot at the beginning of this year, how have you enjoyed your adventure tracking my career as of this year? Because I guarantee you that track will be doubled in 2024, because that's the reason that your fans should follow me.
Well, I'll even go further. I think it might be tripled. I think that certainly you say double. I say that if people don't follow you, it's going to be triple because you know what? I'll actually kick the ballistics here real quick and I'll go straight shoot from the hip. I'll break the fourth wall here. Listen, we have a lot of guys on Sportswire, a lot of guys from different places, different countries, different states. And I'll get to a comment here real second, but you have definitely shown in your ring ability that you are certainly worthy to those peers, worthy to your contemporaries here of coming on this show, that you know what, you are certainly primed and poised for even bigger and better things. And I'll, like I said, won't go double fold, I'll go triple fold this. So I got a good feeling here that you're certainly holding up your end of the bargain, and certainly many of your contemporaries elsewhere are going to have to raise their games up to keep up with you here. I have a comment though from somebody, and I guess I'm going to bring it up here. I'm not sure if it's a sincere comment or a facetious one, but this person says this is great, and also says, "Do you have any plans to donate to charity?" I mean, is that something that you're aware of and what you may be doing, or you want to announce here on the show? And what do you make of this comment here, sir?
I will wrestle any charity shows that you have with a private locker room. And I have nothing else to say besides that. I am very private about my finances and where they go. So
Well, I'll save you a step on that as somebody that you might want to break the fourth wall that has done, I would say, decently well, maybe even really well, you might say financially. That's probably the smartest thing that you've probably said the entire show, because you don't want to tell people your finances. Obviously, take it from one successful person financially to another. You definitely don't want to tell people either how much you have in the portfolio or how much you might be donating to charity, because eventually they'll know when you file your taxes in a few months. So at the end of the day, no reason to disclose anything to people here. So I would certainly say smartest thing that you've said here the whole time. And apparently this other person wants to know, what do you think about homeless people for whatever reason?
They exist, and they're around, and I frequently give $1 to the homeless guy at the top of South Dixie Highway over here, because his sign says, "All I want is a beer." And I think that every man should be able to have that. So that's what I think.
So I guess then it sounds to me as if that maybe you're not such a bad guy as certainly Mr. Sayers points out. If you're giving people who are homeless $1 out of your pocket to go somewhere, then you're not this bad guy after all. That certainly you've been painted a picture from the TF crew and Mr. Sayers. Is that fair to say?
I think that's perfectly said.
Now, I got some more comments. All of a sudden, the floodgates have opened here toward you. So I don't know if this is coincidence or whatsoever, but a person here says, "Why are you lying?" And also wants to go further and saying, before I have more comments, what are your thoughts on CM Punk returning to the WWE? Which, I mean, I don't know if this is relevant or not to the show, but I mean, if you want
I will say that $1 does go to that homeless guy. The rarity that I walk past him and feel uncomfortable enough to give him $1. Now, I will say, to second that, CM Punk in WWE, I did not expect that. Sure. I mean, good for him, I guess. I mean, they must be paying him, so pay me as well.
He technically said last week that he said that he's here to make money. So
and so am I. So that at least I can agree with him.
I'm glad you brought that, because I got a lot more questions here. Apparently, toward the end of the show, it's almost coming in like a flurry of punches here. First of all, again, this person, by the way, I guess certainly has something or knows something, maybe. Would you wrestle a homeless person? And on top of that, would you fight a homeless person for the TF Crew Championships?
Nope, I'm very cleanly. Nope, not even a chance. Not a lick in the world. Not even slightly. Nope, not even close.
Do you think that maybe is this Gabe's master plan to maybe get a homeless person to challenge you for the TF Crew Championship? Is this part of the plans here? No?
I hope no homeless guys breaking the top 5, at least that I'm aware of. TF Crew is that exclusive. I will say that.
Well, this person wants to further say that they would wrestle a homeless person and then beat them for the championship. And then also, I have another point here. Would you fight the long-haired man on the left side of the screen for the TF Crew Championship? So
I don't think the guy on the left side of the screen would fight me for the TF Crew Championship because he is such an intelligent man who knows what his space is. Just like I would never run a podcast in inferior podcast according to yours.
Well, I would say this much. Certainly, I'm not a member of the TF Crew roster, so I'm going to basically say I am not going to be competing against you for the championship. I'll let the verdict of the people in TF Crew decide those things. I'm here for the screen. It's not about me. It's about the TF Crew and yourself. So clearly, do you know this person? By the way, it's not about me. I'm wondering, do you have any ideas who this might be, or anything of any sorts? Do you have any?
People like me, man.
Yeah.
People like me. My girlfriend sometimes says you're a guy. You know,
well, I'm going to let your girlfriend, have those comments, and I'm not going to say anything further to them. But this person would like to also say thank you for the time here, gentlemen. So that's the case here. And then all of a sudden, I want to thank you, Sportzwire. This is letting. If you want to follow Sportzwire Radio, you want to see more TF Crew coverage, Friday, 4:30 p.m. with the legendary Jimmy Controversy at the link above here on YouTube, and give me a sub. So definitely make sure you tune in and hang out with us here. And this person says, "Go band for band." You know anything about this comment? Go band for band.
I don't. That's not a catchphrase.
Okay. And that I think even Chris says what? Yeah, I think this is unfortunately one of the awkward moments where we're like, well, what's the comment here? I mean, usually we're talking about something pertaining to something. In this case, we don't know what it is. I mean, all of a sudden people now are popping in. So I'm trying to follow up here. And then this person, well, because we are an internet radio station, I can't say the word, but I can say you fill in the blank. So basically okay, fine, fair enough. So obviously people have all of a sudden got the message here. And if you want to follow Angel Santiago here, again, you can do that on Instagram at _Angel Santiago 10 _. YouTube, check him out. The PR Prince Angel. And also here, I'm not going to really repeat this, but do you like black people?
I love all people. I love black people, white people, Hispanic people, every people on the planet. Every people on the planet except the person who stands across from me for this TF Crew world title.
Okay, that makes sense. Certainly, you are certainly a man of all peoples, as they would say, a man of all people, for the people, by the people.
By the people.
Thank you, Chris, for saying that you'll be following. Okay, so I guess
love you too. Love for all.
Right. So before closing thoughts, and actually, you know what? I'm actually gonna go get further comments. Forget what I'm about to say because I got more of them here. I challenge him for the belt. You know, this person is. They apparently want to challenge you for that belt with explanation.
A lot of people do. All I'll say is, don't text me, text Gabe, and you figure that out because I look at top 5, and that name is not in the top 5. Are you aware?
Yep. So basically, they're trying to opine here on this show to kind of basically petition or maybe work their way up the ladder to get a championship here. So I have some more comments. Let's get to them here. I got a phone call that 2009 Randy Orton will be coming here to your podcast to fight you.
Is that a comment to you or me?
I have no idea, but I don't.
It says your podcast. This isn't my podcast.
Well, you're on the podcast, but I mean, I don't think.
Point. I mean, if 09 Orton comes in, we are in the money then.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, there is that old adage, well, at least you're in the ring with Randy Orton, right? I mean, you're in the ring.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, so, okay, fair enough. Appreciate that. And then what if a black man stood across you? Well, you kind of answered that question already, so I'm going to actually save you the trouble. So I guess then before I get to final thoughts, I'll give one more question to you then. I mean, what if all the people that are watching this, what's the one thing that they should take away most about the Puerto Rican Prince, Angel Santiago?
That it's on the up and up. And if you guys want to buy into this stock now, if you wanted the viewers to be like, oh, I was part of the first 1,000 subscribers. Do that now. Because I'm telling you, in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, you'll regret it.
Well, it's almost like there was a wrestler I interviewed a few years ago during COVID named 2-Bit, and I had him on, and all of a sudden, about a year later, I interviewed him 3 times, and about a year later, he was on WWE TV for Progress. So, I mean, You can never know with these things. And a couple of more fun comments here. And this person is clearly playing mind games with you. You definitely know who this person is. By the way, I ain't going to say anything further, but they hate Puerto Rico.
And I hate you.
And do you think you can beat Big Daddy V? Well, if Big Daddy V, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, because if we're thinking about the same Big Daddy V,
I run around, gas him out, and
Big
then
Daddy
elbow him
V,
in the back of
but
the head.
you actually can't wrestle Big Daddy V Viscera because he's dead. Can't wrestle him. You can't. So unfortunately, that's kind of a moot point. It's kind of literally a moot point, to use my law days. So it's a moot point. But obviously, we spoke a lot. Well, actually, one more question. All right, so one more question. All right, I think I know where this is going. And would you beat Pete Corvus? I knew this was coming up here to something. So would you beat Pete Corvus?
Who's Pete Corvus?
Well, I think that this person here probably wants to kind of, I guess, more or less petition or maybe do something on their behalf. And management, I guess, has maybe bum rushed you a little bit, because they're basically saying that they've put viewers up in here to kind of, I don't want to say pepper you, but certainly give you some interesting questions. And as I pointed out, Pete Corvus is the man. So this individual clearly knows something. And Big Daddy V would squish you, damn punk. So again, seems like some interesting, maybe it's to pepper you, maybe to get into your mind. I don't know what it is, but certainly we've seen in the last 10 to 15 minutes here on Sportswire Radio, some different people in the audience, you might want to say, putting it lightly here or nicely.
Can you see people love interacting with me? Can you see why I'm in front of crowds, why I'm main eventing, why promoters put me there? Because look how I'm already getting the interaction, and look how long we're going just by people wanting to interact with me.
This was a raid by the Pete Corvus Club. Broke my ankle. $10 Cash App will be appreciated. I mean, OnlyFans is out there, right? You can do OnlyFans. I mean, and also here, Pete Corvus is from GTS. Pete Corvus will crush you. And how much to sign you, big man?
Well, that's a conversation that you should send me. Going back to Pete Corvus, hey, message Gabe. He's the promoter, man. I defended against anybody and everybody. Obviously, as we've said, I've wrestled a vast majority of opponents.
So I think this is, so I get exactly where this is going here before the show ends, is that we spoke about different people from different places, and, competition maybe was inferior, though you pointed out maybe it was more inferior than I gave credit to. But it sounds like there's some tort or some type of campaign or a push for someone named Pete Corvus to wrestle you. This is what it sounds like. And how does that make you feel based off some earlier discussions that we had pertaining to kind of some of the people you faced?
I say if he's part of GTS, that company is extremely successful. That company has been running for a long time, longer than I've been wrestling. I could say to get in contact with Gabe, I could say if you want an opportunity to crack that top 5, the TF crew gives those, because we want the best in up and coming. And I could say that we have that. And I could say that this calendar year will be a TF crew Puerto Rican Prince party year.
Certainly sounds like it. And again, you should wrestle at JWWE. Know anything about it?
Once again, please, people who are in here, I'm telling you right now, I will wrestle anywhere and anywhere, baby. I swear.
Well, if you're tuned in, if you came in here in the last 15 minutes, I want to tell you that if you like hearing from Angel Santiago, you're going to definitely want to tune in Friday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, with the one and only Jimmy Controversy. And if you're bored, tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern time, you're on a lunch break with the legendary Dean Allmark, who wrestled in Impact Wrestling. And oh, by the way, as a trainer, trains somebody who's currently the AEW Women's World Champion named Timeless Tony Storm. Speaking of comments here, because we're getting flooded with them here. Hey, Gabe broke his foot in a shoot. Give him the money. And speaking of people here that you very well may be sharing a locker room with, January 6th, they call him the boogeyman of the Midwest. Well. And he says, anyone, huh? Omen Black, name sounds familiar. Name rings a bell. You probably heard of
Sounds
him.
very familiar. And I will say this: very, very few people can get my attention and my time. I'm not a good text backer. I'm really
You
not.
don't look
My
like
time
one.
is
Yeah.
occupied.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: Omen Black, crack the top 5.
Okay, well, he is called the boogeyman of the Midwest, and he comes from another place that's got a lot of followers, and he's got his own live show coming up on December the 16th called IMF Winter Clash, where he's going to be wrestling Matthew Forsaken and Damian Saint for the first ever IMF Hardcore Championship. And he spoke a lot about it here on this show, and he basically kind of scared off a guy named Craven Rage, who was supposed to be a backyard nightmare, ruler of the yard, and he basically punked him out, some would say. But he says, shout out to his boy, Gabe Sayers. So he seems to be on the Gabe Sayers side of things. And
Sure.
also, yep, Pete Corvus is the JWWE champion, and he's waiting for you. And speaking of other people here, the shoot was a volleyball game. And speaking of other people here, the wild card Jason Storm, who I spoke about earlier from another place called Michigan, he's the OMW world champion. He was the ROEW world champion there, and he just beat a guy in another state that you won't go to called Alabama, who was a security system with 3 initials called ADT. It's more like he should be DOA, dead on arrival, next time he goes into a ring, because after what Jason Storm, the wild card, did to him. So all of a sudden, the floodgates are coming in here, and people, I guess, seem to want to heckle you all of a sudden. Now, another guy from
Seems
California.
like people want to pay to watch.
They guess they see a curiosity factor. Skulls, the Soul Hunter, apparently hunts souls. Might want to do more in the ring, though, coming up. Says, good evening, gentlemen. And Omen Black says, you're goddamn right, brother. So all of a sudden, the people seem like they didn't want to, I guess, let you go off scot-free. We're getting ready to close the show, celebrate, go over to Miami, party, maybe be Mr. 305, maybe meet Mr. 305, pick up Shakira. I hear Shakira's still in South Beach. I mean, I know you got a girlfriend, but, obviously, it's hard to resist. Some of those women out there in South Beach, you got a slew of them, obviously, and you're out there. The weather is beautiful. So all of a sudden, these different wrestlers from different places, they're trying to basically, go up on your grill, basically. They're basically
it sounds like attaching themselves to my name, like a lot of people have. If you've noticed that throughout the interview as we've talked.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about different names that you said you made them relevant. Now, all of a sudden, these other guys from different places, maybe they heard of the fact that, you said that in those places in different states that they're champions, and kind of, you haven't heard from them, that they haven't DM'd you. So, they're commenting here on YouTube. I mean, your Instagram is open now. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's at _Angel Santiago 10 _, right? So,
Correct.
like, if you see some of these wrestlers like Omen Black, Jason Storm, these other people, Pete Corvus, are you saying that if they really want to go out there and see and test their skills against you, should they give you a DM on Instagram to see what you're worth and what you're up to par with? Kind of that what they should be doing?
With the DM, get me my ticket to get there, and I will wrestle any person you put in front of me. There's my deal, right
so
here.
So basically, they can comment all they want on YouTube, but until that they DM you, to me, it's almost like for you, it's kind of a moot point. Then it's almost like they're not serious.
We discussed that I've taken every opportunity that I've been given. I've never said no, and
Okay.
I plan to continue to do so. I took my opportunity at WTW, and look, we're announcing it, 12 days before I'm about to wrestle?
Hey, I'll give you credit, champ. You didn't even wait. You went right off the jugular. I asked you a question about Obey, and then you said WTW. You're wrestling there December the 16th. You're like, I'm wrestling Kobos. I mean, that's it. You're like, that's what you're doing. So, there you go. And Ray is going to message you, apparently. He's going to message you on your Instagram. And Skull says open season for you. I guess he's joining in. I guess we'll see when your DMs pop up.
Well said.
But when is your next interview? So my next interview, I've got a bunch of them. I'll just give you my schedule real quick before we get to you real quick again. I'm going to be on the air tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern time with Dean Allmark. Dean Allmark trained Tony Storm. 9 o'clock from DBW, Big Tex. Wednesday, 3:15 p.m. Blackheart, the XCW play-by-play man. I'm here Friday for TF Crew fans, 4:30 Jimmy Controversy. That's going to be on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 Backspace Streams. Also, sportswireradio.org via the listen live or watch now button. So those are my next interviews. Also, give me a sub on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. If you have any questions or if you want to DM me, you can do that on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021. My DMs are also always open. Anything I can do, I'm here for you. So, Mr. Black, though, would like to say, Prince, you know who I am. I'm the man who called you out on your back when BWO was a dumpster fire that was dying. And I heard nothing but crickets from you and the BWO. Cindy, get back at me.
I don't even know what that last part meant, but I'll say this. BW is dead. It's gone. I don't own that. I don't do that anymore. I don't run that company. I was never the commissioner of that company.
Roman, a part of a group called Foundation, and I just got to pull it up here. Jason Storm is a part of it. They've also got a couple of other people. You got Soldier GP, who's the IMF World Champion. You've got also CJ Black, who's the ROEW champion. He's a part of it. You've got Dark Cron and Matthew Forsaken in Ohio. They're a part of it. And also, you've got somebody named Sean Jovi, who's the resident rock star. He's the WC Interstate Openweight champion. So these guys are almost like a Midwest, almost four horsemen, modern day Midwest four horsemen. And, Syndicate's pretty strong. You got Harvey Dublock, you've got Roach, you've certainly got Christopher Black, Lucas Greitzlu. I mean, you've got a big group, but these Foundation guys seem to be all over the place. Does that work?
To go back to what I said, he's referencing BWO. I made a commitment to TF Crew when BWO was ending that I would go and wrestle for TF Crew. I made the commitment to commit. I committed 8 months of my life. After I fought Kevin Cap, I waited 8 months to face Donnie Max. I trained and did press for 8 months for one match. I committed to the TF Crew. I am committed to the TF Crew. I'm not denying, Mr. Omen Sir, that you wanted to contact me or whatever case may be. I don't even remember, honestly. I truthfully don't remember. But guess what? I'm here, and I'm a TF Crew guy, and I committed to myself for that for 8 months, and I know that you damn respect that because you can respect my name that I busted my ass, and I knocked Donnie Max out. I did exactly what I said. So let me do exactly what I do. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. If you hit me up, you get me there, I'll wrestle, period.
Do you think that Gabe is trying to basically punish you or basically get back at you by all of a sudden all these different comments directly at you? So no, not at all.
If Gabe really wants to put people in this chat to try and talk trash to me, it just proves my point. It proves my point that people want to elevate themselves by coming for the TF Crew title, and rightfully so. And rightfully so.
Can I pull up? I know that you're a busy man, but people really want to talk to you. And I got to pull up somebody else
Let's keep going.
Who's really a big deal in this sport. I mean, we had him on months ago, and, he's certainly, I guess, maybe slowly testing his foot in the waters. And he's kind of like the man. His name is Jack Delta. You heard of Jack Delta?
I haven't up to this point. Would you mind elaborating?
So Jack Delta's been a man. I mean, you've wrestled for what, 6 companies now? Going on 6?
Yes.
He's probably wrestled in, I would say, what, does it 32 states? He wrestled 32, 33 states, Jack Delta, something like that. And he's been in, some big places. You might have heard of those places in Tennessee, Michigan, Indiana, those places that obviously, the big time. Some may say, like in XCW, for example, they call the gold standard of the sport. XCW, in a lot of ways, that company in Indiana, we wouldn't have these other places because of that one individual named Joshua Fletcher, who kind of really was the founding father of the current underground backyard wrestling, in my opinion. So anyways, Mr. Delta would like to say TF Crew is a really cool project and company. It has a wide variety of people from around that area.
Well, then I would just like to say, Mr. Delta, you are spot on. You are clearly somebody educated in the business, and I hope you're watching on January 6th, and I hope that you're going to see the amazing product that TF
Would you like to maybe meet him if he's watching as a spectator in the locker room? Would you think that?
I would shake that man's hand any day of the week just based off the description you made.
Can I go basically and even go twofold for that? Maybe we could actually get a photo of you guys. If Mr. Delta is actually going to be there watching the show in Connecticut, I would love to see kind of like a handshake, maybe a passing of this torch, almost like last year when John Cena passed that torch to Cody Rhodes, almost quote unquote. Maybe Jack Delta, because he's the man right now, right? He's been the man traveling all over the place. If Mr. Delta is, certainly reevaluating his options, maybe we could get a handshake from Mr. Delta to you, sir, signifying that now you're the new man. You're the guy in this sport, in 2024. Just saying.
If Mr. Delta would like to sit front row and watch the absolute concert symphony that I'm about to put on in front of him, I would love that.
You look like a composer, by the way. You do look like one.
I'm just such kind words from a professional, just a professional.
Well, I have heard that I'm a professional, but it's not about me. Mr. Sayers says, thanks, Jack. And he also says, can't wait for you to see our first indoor show. So maybe Mr. Delta is going to be there. We get that picture. I want to say hello to my guests, by the way, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, Big Tex from Dominating Breakout Wrestling in neighboring Maryland. He says hello, and he is watching, and Big Tex has been watching all of my shows recently. So thank you, Mr. Tex. I had a long conversation with Tex yesterday, and he's going to definitely no longer text with me. He's going to talk live on the air. So obviously, we've seen a lot from you. All of a sudden, you've got a lot. I want to thank Chris for subscribing. And if you do have any suggestions to anybody else, that's my YouTube page. Get in touch with me. Anything you want, anybody else you want to come on the show. And I want to remind people again, Jimmy Controversy, Friday, 4:30 p.m. So if you like TF Crew coverage, Jimmy's going to be here. And at some point, we will have Hardcore on. So I am going to give you the floor. If there's anything else you'd like to plug, share, or say, and it's your floor now, champ. Be my guest. Fire away.
If I could say I want to close out with one word, it's this. As I said before, I like dragging people into deep waters. And I have just scratched the surface of the iceberg of this year. 2024 for the Puerto Rican Prince and TF Crew is going to be the top, the pinnacle of this wrestling world. We are going to put everyone on notice. And as I put them on notice this year, I will continue, as you said, to wrestle the top competitors so that I could make every single list and accomplishment that I want. And if you don't think that I'm going to be going after other people in 2024, then you are sorely misunderstanding my complacency.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we sign off, and obviously we're looking forward to watching you December the 16th at WTW. We're looking forward to especially January 6th against Obey for your TF Crew YouTube Championship. I would love to see, speaking of names, Omen Black, love to see you and him square off one day.
Shiver me timbers, put me on notice.
Would love to see you one day also square off maybe Jason Storm. And if he desires to one day, Jack Delta, although Mr. Delta, maybe he would just want that photo with you, certainly. And maybe even in Maryland, Mr. Big Tech. So there's a lot of people I could think of here that I would love to see you in the ring with, in addition to what we're going to see coming up. So obviously, we are very, very excited about the future. And speaking of list, I have no doubt that you're going to be on a big list here for Sportswire Radio in a few more months. So I'm looking forward to that one here also. And my last comment, Mr. Black says he just put you and Syndicate on notice. And also I got a couple more comments here. Speaking of that, Prince versus me or Storm or Delta sounds like money. Like I said here, speaking of money, I think if Gabe was a businessman, obviously I always come with real money because I'm always sitting on top of it. That would make a lot of money. That would certainly get a lot of earned media, earned engagements up there, more followers, more eyes to the product. And I think that any of those names, Omen Black, Jason Storm, Jack Delta against the Puerto Rican Prince, Angel Santiago, would definitely bring some money. And also, Mr. Delta would like to say, I've definitely will tune into it. I've been waiting for ages for one company to take the mantle of the definite best. I remember Prince being the only shining prospect from BWO, so I'm proud to see it. So he's definitely tuning in, and he's waiting for ages for one company to take that mantle of definitive best. And he remembers seeing you in BWO, and He's looking forward to seeing what you do out there in the ring. And he also says, casual Reverend flex with his dough. Well, I don't want to say it, or maybe I should say it. I actually could do a lot more flexing that. I know you're obviously a really well-off guy, even though I did give you the advice not to show off your portfolio. Let's just say that I could probably operate 50 wrestling companies if I desire to. Let's just literally, figuratively, and literally. I know I'm just, the radio man, but if I desire to, I could certainly hypothetically, I could certainly easily operate all the companies that are out there if I desire to. But I want to be a gentleman. Want to obviously give this
monopolies.
Yes, certainly. I have gotten the running joke in the past. Well, you could be Mr. McMahon. I'm like, well, I don't think I'm worth $1 billion, but certainly closer to the 7-figure one. You might want to say, but but that's not about me. It's about the people here, and I obviously am really excited about the future. And I really look forward to Mr. Delta coming back to Sportswire real soon, especially Mr. Black. He'll definitely be back because Mr. Black was on Friday's show. But congratulations on all the success. I'm looking forward to watching you on January the 6th. I'm looking forward to hearing some of what you're going to do here in these coming weeks, also on the 16th of December. Thank you for also sharing that here on our page. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about Jimmy Controversy here on this show. And congratulations on all the success. It's just the beginning. And as Presidents John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan famously once said, a rising tide always lifts all boats. And whether Mr. Sayers may or may not admit it, your rising tide is certainly lifting the boats of the TF crew. And I'm looking forward to watching you out there on January the 6th at the North Haven Massacre against Obey.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the TF crew. YouTube champion of the world himself, Mr. Angel Santiago, the Puerto Rican prince. He was here to also break the news. He's back in action on WTW's next show, December the 16th, and will also be in the main event on January the 6th, defending his YouTube championship from the TF crew against Obey at the North Haven Massacre, the first ever TF crew live show, which you can find out more information on YouTube at TF Crew 69, Instagram TF crew. You can follow Angel as well on Instagram at _Angel Santiago 10 _ also YouTube, the PR Prince Angel, where he has reels and shorts with thousands upon thousands and thousands of views. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you will go back to your regularly scheduled programming. I will be back here 12 o'clock Eastern Time with Dean Allmark, and then 9 o'clock with Big Tex of DBW. And my last comment, I want to say hello to an upcoming guest. Actually, he's cool with you. He's actually trying to do some wrestling and rapping in the state of Kansas. His name is Shane Meyer, a.k.a. Ringside Rebel. Shane, thank you for tuning in. I will definitely get in touch with you after I'm off the air. We will bring you on to Sportswire real soon. Thank you, my friend, for your support. I look forward to talking about your journey in rap and wrestling coming up here later this week. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.